This is E-Rock at Fanboy Films with another debrief. Actually, today it's more of a pre-brief because it's a little preview of the next Late Night Saga video, which I haven't quite finished. I wanted to have something to put out today on my channel because 1 year ago today, or maybe yesterday, depending on when this actually gets done, was the debut of the Conan versus Lopez video. And it's been a while because I've been huddled down on this last edit for the Late Night Saga. So let's get a little preview and get it right out of the way. I'm working on a little installment called Three's a Crowd. Which really is about a time span of around 30 years when Johnny Carson, Tom Snyder, and David Letterman all inhabited one, or should I say, one block of television, or should I say 2 hours of television. And that's really what kicked this off. This thought process of mine was when I realized that at first you had Carson and Snyder, when Snyder was on the Tomorrow Show, and then you had Carson and Letterman, and then you had Letterman and Snyder. So it was kind of interesting that right in a row you had these same two guys in different formations. And I thought that would sort of be interesting to cover that span. That's really not the best story in this time span. The best story probably is the friendship between Tom Snyder and David Letterman. The sort of unlikely friendship, because we've seen how on the other episodes of the Late Night Saga that they devolved into wars between, Letterman-Leno or Leno-Conan. Here's a case where David Letterman actually replaced Tom Snyder in his time slot. Snyder was actually kicked off the Tomorrow Show in order to make room for David Letterman to come in, and you'd think they would become enemies because of that, but they actually became friends. There's a much better video. I'm not going to try to repeat efforts, which is why this video doesn't focus on that. Go to the great Don Giller's YouTube channel, and you'll find like a clip of all of the Letterman prank calls to the Snyder Show. Starting when, after Letterman started Late Night, Snyder got a radio show, and Letterman would call into the radio show every year to wish him happy anniversary, and that kind of continued. They would book each other as guests, and that kind of, I guess, continued the professional relationship or friendship. And then that carried over to when Snyder had a CNBC show, and then eventually when Letterman moved from NBC to CBS, he got Snyder to follow him. Letterman had the Late Show, and then he had Snyder come in and do the Late Late Show, which was kind of like the Tomorrow Show. That was kind of the best story, their friendship that came out of it. But also, not to be overlooked, is the friendship between David Letterman and Johnny Carson, which, unlike the relationship between Carson and Leno, who had a professional relationship, Carson and Letterman seem to hit it off, maybe because they're both from the Midwest, maybe they both have the same weird type of humor. They ended up living next door to each other and became neighbors, or at least in the same neighborhood, and became friends. So that was another good story in there. But I just ended up covering that span of time, and there isn't really a particular story other than maybe just sort of the changing landscape, as Lopez says, of late night television.
I'm a Latino. I know something about landscape.
So, which leads into a good example of one of the reasons why these videos take so long, for me at least. I wanted to talk about the Midnight Special because the Midnight Special was the first show that aired after Carson's Tonight Show. It was the first time NBC had ran any programming that late, in that late hour. So, but I didn't want to get too off topic, I didn't want to, I already had to talk about Carson, Snyder, and Letterman. That was a lot. So I felt like any other thing I was going to talk about was just going to pull attention away from the main narrative, and there's not that much of a narrative anyway. So if I was going to mention the Midnight Special, I wanted it to be linked back into one of the three guys that I was already talking about, just to try, any connection I could get would sort of make it feel more like part of the main flow of the story. So I wanted to find a clip. I figured I could find a clip of Johnny Carson introducing the Midnight Special. Midnight Special ran for 8 or 9 years. So I figured somewhere in that time, Carson would have had to say, my next guest appeared on the Midnight Special last week, or is appearing on the Midnight Special next week. Something like that. So I thought if I could find that clip, that would help me link all these pieces together. So there's really no way to search. I was trying to search on Carson Midnight Special and find it, but it's not going to, if you search on YouTube for a video clip, it's not going to search on words that they said within the clip. It's only going to search on whatever the person put in the title or in the body of the whatever. So sometimes when you don't have a way to search, you have to invent your own search. So as always, when I start one of these videos, I go to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is a good place to get a broad understanding of a subject. It may not be the end-all and be-all, The good thing about Wikipedia is it usually cites its sources, and you can track those sources back to their point of origin, and then you can find more information. So in this case, though, Wikipedia had a very nice page on Johnny Carson, and it had a list of every episode of The Tonight Show and every guest that was on every episode of The Tonight Show. Over on the Midnight Specials page, they had a list of not guests that appeared on the Midnight Special, but guest hosts. So I thought between these two lists I could compare, and if I could find any guest that had appeared on both The Tonight Show and on the Midnight Special within like the same month, and then I could track down that clip, I thought there might be a chance that Carson would have said, hey, my next guest just appeared on the Midnight Special, or is just going to in a week. So I went through this whole list, 8 or 9 years of episodes, and I found about 6 acts, either musical guests or comedians that had appeared on both shows within the same month. And so then I started looking for clips. I don't know that I was able to find it based on the date of the show. You don't always say Midnight Special Bee Gees or Carson Bee Gees. I don't know. I think I had to search on Johnny Carson Tonight Show Bee Gees, and it probably came up with however many times they appeared on the show, 6 or 7, and then I had to go through and watch all those clips. So I'm just saying it takes a little bit of time to do this research to come up with this.
My next guests have had quite a career, most successful, the singers and songwriters, and they're going to be hosting NBC's Midnight Special 1 week from Friday here on NBC. The Bee Gees.
Another nice piece of linkage was Saturday Night Live. The whole reason that show was created was to fill an empty time slot because Johnny Carson's Tonight Show used to do a repeat on Saturday late night, but Carson didn't want that to repeat. He wanted to save his repeats for the week so that he could work less days. And now the weekends were open, and now NBC created Saturday Night Live to fill the slot. But when it was time for their debut episode, they actually weren't ready to put on the show, so they did a special Tom Snyder Tomorrow show on Saturday to introduce the not ready for primetime players. After the Saturday Night Live connection became obvious, I remembered an article I'd read somewhere with Johnny Carson. I swear I read somewhere from Johnny Carson where he was digging on SNL, saying it was like a monologue joke where he said this weekend, Saturday Night Live is going to try something completely new. They're going to be funny for once. And that was because they had made fun of him and he was taking a dig at them. I swear, during one of my previous late night sagas, I had come across that quote or that article. And when I was trying to come up with it for this one, I could not for the life of me find that quote. So, which is why I ended up cutting this whole piece. This was a whole thing. I spent time. I found a clip of Joe Piscopo doing Johnny Carson. I couldn't find the clip or download it anywhere other than the NBC website. I actually just shot a video of it with my phone, and I was going to use that low quality version because that's the only one I could find. I couldn't find any way to download it.
The Johnny Carson School of Acting. Friends, I hear you saying, I don't do any funny characters. Do what I did. Steal some. Copy Jack Benny's mannerisms. Rip off Jonathan Winter's blabby old lady. Do a soothsayer from the East just like Steve Allen, and you have got yourself one hell of a career.
And then, of course, everyone remembers the famous Tom Snyder impression by Dan Aykroyd on SNL. And I actually went ahead and bought this DVD, Best of Dan Aykroyd, because I could not find any clip anywhere on the internet, not even on NBC's website, of Aykroyd doing that impression. I could only find it on the DVD.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Cabal Show.
So I bought the DVD just to get that clip. And then I ended up not using it because I couldn't find the Carson quote. It felt like the linkage just wasn't there to use the Piscopo clip and the Aykroyd clip. So I just cut the whole section, and it was really just drawing away from the whole narrative, if you will. So what happens when I'm assembling one of these videos, again, it takes me a long time. I usually start at Wikipedia. Well, first I get an idea of what span I want to cover. Then I'm going to Wikipedia, trying to figure out dates and times and people that were involved. And then you track them down. It's possible that Wikipedia is not accurate, but usually when you go and look for the clips, you do find them. So I think it is accurate most of the time. It's because they cite their sources and you can track them down and find them. So as a result of the age of all this subject matter, I wasn't able to find as much video. So this time I wanted to use, like I said in the past, I didn't really want to insert my own opinion or voice in the narrative. I wanted to use something that was from someone that was actually there, more closer to firsthand. So this time I went to a lot more articles from newspapers and magazines, most of which, now in the year 2020, most of which have been digitized and put online, but you can't always read them for free. But there's a lot of articles from Variety or the New York or LA Times or whatever. So I used a lot of quotes from those, either verbatim or paraphrased. I'm going to cite those in the video to sort of link all the various clips together. So usually when I'm building one of the rough cuts of these, I'm just sort of assembling the pieces as I go, and a lot of times I find out that I don't have everything I need. I go out, I do more research, I write some more copy, I link things, I download more clips. So it's all a big mess. And so by the time I get the whole thing assembled, and this one is probably going to be like 45 minutes long, that'll be my rough cut, and then I'll go back through and watch it and go, oh, I really don't need this or this or this. I'll probably cut a lot out, maybe even add more stuff. And I don't really want to end up doing a lot of video correction or cleanup on clips that I'm going to end up not using. Because when I do the rough cut, usually what I'm doing very basically is I'm going to balance the audio levels just so that doesn't drive me crazy, but I'm not going to like do a hiss filter, noise reduction sort of stuff on it, because why bother on clips that I'm going to end up cutting anyways. And on the video side, I will take all the clips that I get and bring them into the correct aspect ratio, because that drives me crazy if they're not. But then when that's done, I'm not going to do like color correction and that kind of stuff on it, because I may not end up using the clips. So I will have a rough cut and I will have a final cut. I think this time I'll actually just publish both, so for anyone who's interested. And that's about it for now. Hopefully this video, this kind of started as an idea that I had, and I don't know if it's going to be as exciting as the others, because it's not a war. Not every installment in the Late Night Saga is a war, after all. This one is more of a collaboration and friendship. I wish I had more about... I keep hearing that Johnny Carson didn't like Tom Snyder, but I can't find that much about, other than their interview that I include here is a little combative at points, but I haven't read much about that, probably because Johnny doesn't talk about that kind of stuff, and I guess Snyder doesn't really either, so probably won't find too much about that. But I think I might do a couple little minis. I think I should do a little mini, a little bit more exploration on Tom Snyder and Rona Barrett, because there seemed like a little more friction there, and I read a few articles of more stuff that was said off screen. So that might make for an interesting little mini war. So other than that, I have tons of other things and just not that much time to produce them. So I'll keep cranking things out. Hopefully things will speed up as I go forward. I did just get a new editing system, and hopefully I will have a little more time to work on it. So see you next time.